Welcome to This Just In with This Just In as your host, Justin Core. This is a show where we take a deeper dive into the stories most important to you with the people who bring you those stories. And today, a returned correspondent. It is Rachel Garceau, who I previously called Idaho's chief meteorologist. She's like, no, that's too egotistical. I'm just Idaho's best meteorologist. I'm just kidding.
Modifying the title just a bit.
Idaho's finest meteorologist, Rachel Garceau. Bienvenue au spectacle.
Merci. Thank you for having me.
Do you actually speak French? Because I just...
petit peu.
A little bit?
My 3 years of high school French coming in handy right now. I knew it'd pay off someday.
Fantastic. I took 4 years of high school French.
Oh, you
French
win.
student of the year
You
my
win.
senior year because I was the only senior in fourth year French.
Hey, a win's a win, Justin. Just
A
take
win is a
it.
win.
Yeah,
I don't remember any of it. I had to look that up.
Well, you could have fooled me. The accent was spot on. Nicely done.
I should have kept with
Nicely
it.
done.
Yeah. Just started making stuff up. Rachel, we're going to talk about the water year ahead as much as we can.
Yeah.
First, though, you have a new show right here on
Sure.
KTVB
Yeah.
Plus. So tell me about it.
We can call it a show.
Okay.
It's just kind of a long form forecast, if you
Okay.
will, but it's really cool. So we record it twice a week, so it'll be updated Sundays and Wednesdays.
Sundays, Wednesdays.
Sundays and
okay.
Wednesdays, but it's there available on demand all week long on KTVB Plus. So it is called First Alert Weather Plus. See
Got
what we
it.
did there,
Nice.
right?
Yeah.
We got the whole marketing team in on that one.
To take the thing we already called weather and throw a plus at the end. Whew. Done
it
for the
is.
day, guys. You
But
earned it. Let's go home.
But plus implies extra, more,
Yes,
right? And that's
yes.
what it is. So it's just a deep dive into local weather. We cover regional, national, weather explainers. If there's some fun weather topics that maybe are coming up that week that we might take a deeper dive into, things like petrichor, which we actually haven't experienced in a while, like some fun weather words. That's a good time, right?
Nice.
Right? Petrichor, do you know what that is, by the way?
It's the smell of the air after rain.
Very nice. Very nice.
Because you taught me that a few times.
And we could use some of that smell these days. We haven't had rain in a long time. So things like that we'll talk about. What does
Nice.
it look like as far as our water supply goes? Travel conditions, things, celestial happenings like we talked about, the
Whoa.
Lyrid meteor shower, little things that maybe we don't have time for, event-specific things.
Cool.
Maybe a deeper look at the Magic Valley forecast, a mountain forecast,
Yes.
places that might not get specific shout-outs all the time in our on-air forecast because we're time-bound there, right? We're inside a newscast. We don't have time to get into all the nitty-gritty details sometimes.
kind of talk about where most of the people are.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, you're taking a deeper dive into the weather most important to viewers with the people who bring you that weather. Rachel, you stole my idea. Two
Did I take
questions.
it?
How
Okay.
dare you?
Okay.
How could you?
I did. Well, I didn't mean to, but I'm not sad about it. Sorry about that. But but it's a fun forecast, and again, available on demand anytime. It'll be at its freshest Sundays and Wednesdays, but we try to keep it kind of timely and evergreen and appropriate for the whole week. But just gives you a little bit, some more weather information that you can catch on air. So it's kind of it's a plus, if you will. An extra forecast. It's good.
I will. Freshest again, Sundays, Wednesdays. So really, it has sort of a petrichor smell to it on those days. You're probably going to surpass me with this show because people love weather and
They do
people love
weather.
watching you talk about the weather. So how can I make this show better and actually stay on the KTVB Plus app so that you don't just push me off every day, every week?
I have no idea. So this is very new.
Okay, whoops.
So Weather Plus is very new. We're only about 2 or 3 weeks in. So we'll
Okay.
give it some time to catch up to this JustIN, and then we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll have some tips for you. I don't know. We'll see. But everyone tune in, and maybe we'll give this JustIN a run for its money. You know what I mean?
I'm sure you already are. People love hearing about the weather.
Yes.
Talking about the weather. This, not on our rundown. I'm going to
Okay.
ad-lib a little bit.
Uh-oh.
You are unprepared for this question,
Okay,
Rachel.
okay.
Why do you think people are so interested in it? Because I
Yeah.
worked with folks down in the Midwest, and on their weather Facebook pages, they had literally 250,000 followers.
Oh, I'm sure.
People are all over it.
Well, and in the Midwest, right, that's such a specific market where, the weather can quite literally kill you. Not to be
Yes.
dramatic, but I mean, there is
100%.
some strong, severe weather in those markets. So weather is a big deal when
Tornadoes,
it's
torrential rain
dangerous.
threats, yeah.
Exactly. So I think we are lucky, unless you're an absolute severe weather lover. Maybe you're not, but we're lucky to live in an area where we don't have weather that severe or that strong. But we love our outdoors. We love the activities. We love our 4 seasons, right? And the changes that come along with all of those seasons. And so I think Idahoans are always keeping one eye or ear on the weather. And as we know, especially in springtime, which we're in right now, it can change day to day. You don't like the weather, you wait 15 minutes or 24 hours, right? And that is certainly the case now. So I just think we love to get outdoors. We're a very busy community, busy area as far as our hikes and our bikes and our skiing and our snowboarding and camping and all that stuff. So I think the weather obviously plays a big role in all of that. So we like to know. And it's everyone can talk about the weather, right? Come on. That's a safe topic these days, most of the time.
Most of the time. Not so much the climate. And it's all relative, right? So, a bad day of weather for us is just a normal day in the Midwest. In fact, I know a bunch of people who moved here from the Midwest, and they're like, man, I just miss sitting in my garage, kicking that garage door open and just watching a thunderstorm, something like that. Yeah,
I love a good storm too. I can get
really
behind
awesome.
that. Yeah.
There was one time I visited San Diego, sort of on the other end of the spectrum, and I was like, man, this is amazing. It's like 72 here. It's going to be 72 all
Every
week.
day.
Going to be sunny.
Yes.
And the Uber driver was like, no. It's not perfect every day. Like Sunday, like in 6 days, there's going to be some clouds.
Everyone's canceling plans. It's the kind of climate where they wear shorts with a scarf when it's 60 degrees outside, Oh, what a life.
Just don't own pants. Just don't own pants down in San Diego.
Not the case here in Idaho. We need pants most of the seasons. I mean, every day I think you probably need pants. But
unless you're a teenager. Man, they are wearing shorts all the time.
No matter what.
Shorts, hoodie, that is just like the outfit. There was one day it was like 10 degrees out, and I live kind of by a junior high. Every kid was like bundled up with their hoodie and then shorts. I just don't think your legs feel it when you're a kid. I don't think they even notice that it's cold. You know what I mean? It's probably just gone numb.
But it's interesting you bring it up because I think weather is, perspective is important because what some people call a lousy day when it's raining and it ruins their outdoor plans. Some people love a good storm. They love some rain, but the rain is always good for us, right? We need it here. And I know we're going to talk about water supply and all of that, but I do think weather is subjective too. So I say it's a safe topic that everyone can talk about, but there's still opinions on the weather, on what makes a good day or a bad day or makes the weather good.
You are 100% correct. And that takes us smoothly into my toss to break. Maybe we're going to take a break, maybe not. I don't know. I'm never sure with these things. I watch them online. Sometimes they hit. Sometimes they've already hit by the time I'm tossing. Again, this show, I love it. This just in, but we're building the plane in the air here. Regardless, we are back after whatever this is going to be.
I need my parachute is what I'm hearing. Okay.
Yes,
Noted.
absolutely.
Noted.
Probably should have already jumped out. We're going to talk about why the snow we have now is so important for the spring and the summer. We're back after this. And we're back from however long that was. We're talking about water. Rachel, Idaho's best meteorologist. Why is the water forecast so important for this area?
Yeah, so water forecast, water supply, all of that. It's a big topic, especially as we leave the winter season behind, go into spring, go into summer, right? So big deal water-wise. Of course, agriculture is king across much of southern Idaho, eastern Oregon, and our water supply helps feed that agriculture, right? And so we keep a very close eye on snowpack throughout the winter because snowpack is what kind of determines how much water we'll have available to us in the spring and most importantly in the summer when it's really hot and we really need it. So snowpack, of course, up in the mountains, slowly starts melting in the spring. That feeds our rivers, which eventually feeds our reservoir system and eventually determines how much water we have available for the summer months in particular when those crops are really drying out and getting thirsty. So it's a big deal.
And we've talked about snowpack a bunch, but what exactly is it and how do they measure it?
Yeah.
Hunter Funk actually went up into the mountains to figure that out. Take a look.
Take a drive a few miles outside of Idaho City. Strap on those snowshoes. Grab the snow puppy.
The snow puppy.
Climb up some snowbanks. And you'll find...
Welcome to the Morris Creek Snowtail Station.
Established in 1978.
And that is like a big snow bladder.
This is an automatic weather station measuring snowpack, precipitation, temperature, humidity, every hour on the hour.
So we're gonna wander up that way next.
So if the station tracks snowpack, why measure it manually?
We're part of a long history of people making these measurements once a month from December through May each year since 1934.
Having records from 1934 keeps things consistent,
Let's put that top piece back.
helping researchers see similarities and changes in snowpack over the years. It also ensures the hourly automatic measurements are
Now I'm gonna put
correct.
this thing called a driving wrench on the top.
They do it with this stick.
So it's a snow tube that we stick into the snow.
Known as the federal sampler.
We'll get a core of snow through here, and 110 inches.
Invented in 1915 in Lake
And then we're
Tahoe,
gonna weigh it. That was pretty good.
and later picked up by Idaho 5 years later.
And the weight actually tells us how much water is in the snowpack. In Idaho, 75% of our water comes from the mountain snowpack, so it's a huge component of it.
A lot of people rely on these measurements.
Irrigators, users, landowners, homeowners, everybody wants to know, and we try to, more information the better.
It helps forecast when reservoirs should move water downstream.
Reservoir operators have to have this delicate balance between managing the amount of water that's coming down, we're saving as much possible for irrigation later in the summer when it's dry, but also releasing enough that we have safe rivers downstream.
While it hasn't felt like the area has had snow similar to the 2017 Snowmageddon, the data is showing otherwise.
So we have about 90 inches of snow, a little bit taller than I can reach, and we're about 36 inches of water content in the snowpack.
Only 2 inches less than 2017,
Weight divided by the depth of snow.
which means it's an above average year.
We're just checking our numbers.
The data helps people plan,
It's very good, but always cautious optimism.
but now that it's measured,
Yeah.
everyone's eyes are on the spring weather
We'll see how that checks with the other one.
Yeah.
in
sounds
hopes that the snow
Hopefully we got the snow.
melts slow.
We have an abundance of water, but it all depends on how it comes off. Everything looks great, but that can change in a month if we have a really hot May. So it's kind of a month to month, but as of right now, this moment, yes, everything is looking really, really great for a year.
So they have an automatic weather station, Rachel. You saw that, but they're like, nah, we're still just going to go up there, measure this snow. Is it just because they like snowshoeing, you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Any excuse to get the snowshoes out, go up there. I know.
Absolutely.
Isn't it fascinating, though, that measuring the tube that they use? I mean, the technology, if you want to call it that, hasn't changed in over 100 years.
I will call
Why
it.
mess with it?
So that was my question, though. It's like you have this weather station, you have all these intricate sort of weather forecasting technologies and measuring apparati, and yet they're like, nah, we're gonna fill up a tube with snow and then weigh it,
Pretty much it.
and here we go.
That's pretty much it. Because so the weather stations can tell you how much it has snowed over a certain amount of time, but it certainly doesn't measure snow depth like that. So they're more for current conditions, recent conditions, things like that. So the weather stations won't keep track of how much is on the snow on the ground underneath it necessarily or around it. So those measuring tubes, if you will, I'm sure there's a better word for it, but yeah, they do a good job of showing how much snow is up there, how deep our snowpack is.
And I mean, I guess that's also how they can compare it to those numbers from 1934. It's hard to tell how accurate those numbers are, but if you're using sort of the same apparatus, the same technology to measure as you did in 34, then you can at least compare it in the same way that we have this percentage more or this less.
Right. Yep.
If we're using those.
And if you're taking it from the exact same spot, year over year, and you're using the same measuring tool or measuring device, it's a great way to compare year over year, decade over decade, and all that. Yeah.
And I think they maybe had a name for it in there, but like we can maybe suggest that they just call it like the Rachel or something.
Oh, you think so? I was thinking the measuring tube, but I mean that to me
probably-
more tells you what it is. But the
probably more
Rachel, the Rachel sounds more like maybe a dance move. I don't know.
That is
not
true. What would the Rachel be?
Oh,
The like your hands for forecasting?
I love that.
You do.
Little bit
So
of
this is a
little bit of
quick
this,
aside.
and then a click and a click. Yeah.
Nobody points to a weather map like Rachel Garceau.
Really?
It is so smooth and fluid and like artistic.
It takes years of practice, Justin. Years of practice.
I tried to do it a few times when I was forced, like they were scraping the bottom of the barrel for me to do weather. real
It is
tough
weirdly
out
hard.
there. I'm like,
It is weirdly hard. Yeah.
I sort of did a Bernie Sanders thing, but you're like, no, right on there. Whew,
Hey,
really
you would
smooth.
get there. You would get there.
Okay.
I promise if you had
Just-
more time to practice.
Just
yeah.
need 10 years of practice, which I'm not gonna get.
Never say never. Never say never.
You never know. Yeah, maybe I could be Idaho's chief or
Weather pointer?
chief weather pointer. Fantastic.
I think that's good.
You would do the forecasting. I
And
would
you
just come
point.
on.
You just point. I think that's teamwork right there.
Right there. So they talked about it in the piece. Snow can be wetter
Yes.
or drier. Is
Wetter,
that like
heavier, drier, fluffier. Yes.
Is
yes.
that like a riddle though? That it's like, is water wet?
Right.
Is snow wet?
Is
How
snow
wet is
water?
snow?
How wet? Exactly. And it does sound like a riddle or a
Yeah.
trick question, but it is true. So
Oh.
temperature has a lot to do with whether the snow, and you've seen it, right? There's snow that collects outside your house. That's really, it's dense and it packs into a snowball
Yes.
really well, and you can, make your snowman and all that. And then there's sometimes where it's just so fluffy and dry, just powder, just poof, goes away.
Gotcha.
And so that just depends a lot on kind of the temperature profile when the snow is falling. And so when you get really cold temperatures, it tends to have a lot less moisture in the air. And so we get drier,
okay.
fluffier snow. And when you get temperatures that are a little closer to the freezing mark, that'll
Mm-hmm.
fall a little bit as kind of heavier, wetter snow. So yes, snow can be wetter or drier,
Gotcha.
even though it is all, of course, precipitation. Yes.
No,
Yes.
yeah. And that's important when you're measuring depth, because if you have a depth of however much with a lot of fluffy snow,
Yep.
it's like, oh, that looks great, but it's not as great
It can compact differently.
Yeah.
Exactly.
when spring comes around.
Yeah.
In the piece, 75% of the water, they shared this stat, 75% of the water around here for that irrigation, for really one of the backbones of the economy here in Idaho. Agriculture comes from the mountains. We
Yes.
talked about the Midwest a little bit. I've known some people down there, lived there a little bit. They might not realize that you can pretty well count on rain in the Midwest. You absolutely cannot count
No.
on rain here.
No, exactly right. We love the rain. We need it. It helps for sure. And that's but that's why we watch our water supply so closely, because you cannot count on the spring storms, the summer showers to come in and help much. So that water supply is so important. And ideally, right, we want a nice, cool, moderate spring
Gotcha.
with some storms and some rain to help feed our rivers a little bit more, keep the ground moist. Because as soon as that ground starts drying out, it starts absorbing some of the water from the rivers that we really want to just try. We want all that snow melt to travel downstream, start filling up our reservoirs, and be available to us for irrigation, right? And so when you start getting much drier, warmer conditions, the snow melts almost too fast.
Yes.
Kind of surges into the rivers. It's that early runoff can hurt instead of help. So it's very tricky, and watching the long range weather patterns comes into play as well. And that's how water managers start to kind of budget the water.
Right.
So it's very much a balancing act of making sure farmers have what they need, and that homeowners have what they need for irrigation as well. Make sure, and it impacts even things like floating the Boise River. That's
Right.
impacted by snow melt and water releases and runoff and all of that. So if you want a nice early float season, you want the river to kind of go a little bit lower and a little bit slower early, but still have plenty of water left for everybody else. So we watch it very closely, especially water managers and those trying to figure out how much water goes where.
And water managers can control that a little bit, on how much they can fill up those reservoirs.
Right.
But we've had it before where they're like, look, reservoir's full. Any fuller, we might get cracks in the dam. And that's
Exactly
going to be a
right.
problem for
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
So we're going to release all this water. And people downstream are like, it's going to flood. They're like, sure is.
Yep. And
But
people,
it's better than the dam break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's that balancing act, the little
Yeah.
tap dance that you do, right? And then, of course, you don't want to release too much too early, because
Yes.
what if we have a summer where, we have drought conditions, which we don't see much rain in the summer here. So, yeah, you got to be real careful with all that. But this year is looking good. Snowpack-wise, we're starting above average almost everywhere. Ski season just ended a couple days ago, went all the way to mid-April, which is pretty phenomenal. So we got a nice push of snow late in the season. So it's looking good as long as we don't see it all melt too fast. So that's
Right.
kind of what we're watching now.
Yeah, and again, don't want too much, so we have
Yeah.
flooding as well. And it
Yeah.
is a weather forecast and a water forecast, not a water guarantee.
Correct.
How much can that snowpack and the available water for irrigation and recreation change, say, over the summer, even from now until the end of the summer?
Well, and that's a big question. It can change pretty dramatically. We can start off above average like we are now and then still end up, maybe being a little short on water over the summer if we get, because summer's a wild card here. We know it's going to be hot. We know it's going to be dry, but just how hot, the irrigation needs are higher, the hotter and drier it is over the summer. So yes, our available water supply can look good now and can certainly diminish quickly, especially if we don't get any rain. Some of those spring storms that just dump torrential rain, not too much, you don't want it too heavy, but that alone can help feed the crops and feed our lawns and cut back on water need for that moment. So you do want some rain, of course, in the spring and summer as much as we can get, because that helps cut back on the need for the irrigation water so we can conserve a little bit, hopefully, and have it hang on till the end of the summer.
And Rachel will keep an eye on that for you.
Of course.
All summer long.
Of
Rachel,
course.
thank you. Up next, we're going to ask Rachel some weather questions that you may have as well. That's coming up right after the break. Welcome back. We were talking about water, and now we're just talking about sort of general weather with Idaho's finest premier meteorologist. These are all just titles I'm giving her.
They're getting longer and longer. They're not going to fit on my business card here after a while.
Well, yeah, just make that font smaller. Rachel Garceau. Rachel, I have questions. You have answers. Are you ready?
I don't know. We'll see.
Alrighty.
We'll see in about 5 minutes.
Okay, Rachel, first off, what in the world is a dew point?
Oh.
Is that just made up?
It is not. It's an actual thing. DEW point.
Right.
Yes.
Gotcha. Because
not a do or a don't
as we
point.
talked about before, we do point. But sorry. Dad joke. Everybody, I'm so sorry. Wow. That
it was good.
Really,
it was good. It was good.
Nah, it wasn't.
I
It
had
really,
to give the dad joke.
Really
its due.
threw you off
yeah,
track.
that's
All
good.
right.
No, but dew point is, and we don't talk about dew point much here because it's a measure of humidity, a measure of moisture in the air. So Midwest, deep South, East Coast, even you'll hear about dew point a lot. So the dew point is a temperature.
Okay.
So you can have a dew point of 30, you can have a dew point of 50 or 70. The higher the dew point is an indication that there's that much more moisture in the air. But for our purposes, the easiest way to understand it is the closer our air temperature is to the dew point temperature, the more saturated our air is. So normally here in Southwest Idaho, we talk about dew point when we're talking about fog. That's normally when we'll talk about it. So let's say we have a dew point of 40 and our air temperature is 42. Well, that's getting pretty close to being a fully saturated air mass. And so when that temperature of 42 drops down to the dew point of 40, our air is fully saturated. It's kind of like a sponge that can't hold any more moisture. It just starts dripping out. It'll make fog, or the air will condense because the air cannot hold any more moisture. So it has to condense, it has to do something. And so it creates fog, low clouds, all of that. So then we talk about dew point. And every once in a while, we'll get a muggy feel to the air here, like in the summer. So that just means our dew point number is high for Southwest Idaho and closer to our actual air temperature. But we don't really talk about humidity here very often because, of course, we are a semi-arid desert. So it's just not something we experience. We have a dry heat.
We are
as we
desert,
like to
which
say.
is why we need all that snowpack
Yes.
melting off. What is the maddest or happiest anyone's ever been with one of your forecasts?
Oh, well, they've probably been more mad than I realize. Well,
I'm glad they didn't reach out.
That's a great question. I can't think of anyone actually being mad, but I do know that, winter forecasting is notoriously the toughest. Snowfall forecasting in particular is really hard because of, wet snow, dry snow, temperature profile. We talk about all of that over the winter. So I know there's been a couple storms where, hey, it's tough. We maybe didn't get it right. We were saying an inch of snow and we got 4 or 5 inches of snow. And that, that's a big difference. And I understand it. I have to drive in that as well. I get frustrated when the storm over delivers. Kids love it when a snowstorm over delivers, right?
Yes.
Because don't go to school today. So that's probably the type of weather where people get the most frustrated. I've had a couple folks that have said, hey, we expected thunderstorms this afternoon. We canceled the barbecue because of that. And it didn't happen. And sometimes that's just how weather is. We do our best.
Yeah.
We are predicting the future. We have a lot of good tools to do it. I have a lot of experience doing it. And we bring all of that to the table. But every once in a while, Mother Nature does not deliver like we thought she was going to. And that happens. And people being happy about the forecast, I hope that happens a lot because we have nice weather. We have nice weather here in Southwest Idaho.
It's not quite San Diego, but it's all right.
Not quite. That is my ideal climate. I love our 4 seasons, but man, mid 70s and sunny, that's
but
my
having
sweet
the
spot.
only season be perfect Not too shabby. All right, here's a question from my wife who was doing
Okay.
a crossword puzzle at the time. Weather map line, 6 letters. Do you need some letters in it?
Isobar? Was that it? Was that it?
You nailed it. Woo!
Do you know what an isobar is?
It's a weather map line.
In the most basic sense, yes. Isobar measures pressure, so it shows the different pressure levels. So different isobars shows you where the different pressure levels are.
Fantastic.
But nice.
Would you believe
Nice.
I needed a few letters?
Okay.
But I also got it.
Nicely
I mean, I got
done.
like IS blank B blank blank, and I was like,
I mean, it's halfway there.
isobars. I think
Halfway there.
something I heard that Rachel say.
That's
we
a
gotta,
good crossword clue.
Not
I like
bad.
it. I like it.
Not bad.
Yeah,
You don't hear
yeah.
that a lot. We got a question texted in. Justin, this is for me. Justin, how do we download KTVB Plus to watch JustIN free? Do we have to have the internet? If so, we don't. You do have to have the
Yeah, you
internet.
do. You
But if
do.
you're watching this right now, you have the internet.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And congratulations to Rachel Garceau, Idaho's meteorologist.
I am a meteorologist. This is true.
Idaho's
this
a
is true.
meteorologist. Yes, thank you for
Somewhere in
coming on the
there
show.
lies the truth. Thanks, Justin, for having me.
If you have any comments or questions, text us at 208-321-5614. Use the hashtag JustIN. And don't forget to watch.
First Alert Weather Plus on KTVB Plus on demand anytime.
See you next time.